Okay. J'ai dit quelque chose que
I said
c'était troublant pour
something
moi,
that I
et je
found
voudrais
troubling,
dire que notre
and I
campagne,
want to
notre
say
mouvement
that
était
our
un
campaign and our
mouvement, une
movement
campagne
is a
d'accueil,
campaign and a
de
movement
bienvenue.
that
Et
welcomes
ce que
people.
j'ai voulu dire que
And what
les
I meant to
coupures
say
conservateurs
was
me
that
rendent triste. Il fait mal à la
conservative
société,
cuts
mais vous
hurt
pouvez
me
avoir n'importe
and
quelle
sadden me,
vue,
but I do believe
n'importe
that you
quelle
can have
opinion,
any
avis politique,
political
il
opinion,
faut, que vous pouvez exprimer
and you
vos
can
opinions,
express your
et
opinions
on veut créer un
because
climat
we want to
respectueux pour
create
tout le
a
monde.
respectful climate for everyone.
Global News has just uncovered that if someone is wanted for deportation and evades detection for long enough, the CBSA will cancel the arrest warrant. If you form government, will you order the CBSA to stop this practice, or would you consider amnesty for these undocumented citizens?
Well, we know that people expect our immigration system to have integrity, and this is showing that our system doesn't have integrity. We need to make sure that the processes are followed appropriately, and then all steps are followed through with.
On a less serious note,
Yes.
Your TikTok is going viral. How do you think this political gimmick is working for you?
Well, you know what? What's powerful about what we did is it was a clear contrast. It showed what we're for and what we're not for. And I wanted folks to know where we stand. And it's a powerful tool to communicate with people. I believe you've got to connect with people where they are. And that means making sure you use every tool available to connect with people, particularly young people. They're a powerful force. They can change the world, and I want to engage them. And I know that they want to be engaged. There's some young people in this room right now, and I know they've got lots of power and lots of passion, and you can change the world. And I want to, yeah. And so, yeah, so I wanted to be able to connect with them and show, you know, in that video we talked about, you know, what I'm for, who we're in it for as a team. We're in it for people, not for powerful corporations. We want to fight against big polluters and protect the environment. So I think it was a cool way to be able to share that. Thank you.
Bonjour, Monsieur Singh. Christian Noël de Radio-Canada.
Thanks.
Radio-Canada, Mr. Scheer in the East said that a Liberal NDP coalition would raise the GST to 7%. Number one, are you prepared to say that you will never increase the GST to pay for your promises? And second, did Mr. Scheer lie? Yes, he lied. That's completely false. We never talked about that. That is not in any of our commitments, so it's false. Absolutely false. And I believe that he's afraid, and he's probably thinking about this because we want to ensure that the rich pay their fair share. We proposed a tax on the ultra-rich, something that Scheer will never do. So that's the contrast between us and the Conservatives and the Liberals as well. We are prepared to say how we're going to increase revenues, and we want the rich to pay their fair share.
So Mr. Trudeau is just making stuff up because he's getting desperate. Sorry. Sorry. That might be true as well, but let me be clear. Mr. Scheer is just making stuff up because he's getting desperate. And we absolutely will not raise the GST. No, not whatsoever, because it's not a progressive tax. What we are going to do is make sure that the richest pay their fair share. We made it very clear. We made it clear we are proposing a super wealth tax. That's a tax on those who've got fortunes of over 20 million. Pretty sure that's no one in this room. But even if it is, we're going to tax you a little bit more. If you have a fortune of over $20 million, yes, we're going to make them contribute more to society. Those at the very, very, very top, not the top even 1%, the top 0.1%, those 2,000 families that have massive wealth, we can actually raise as much as $70 billion with this measure alone. It's a powerful measure to tackle the inequality in our society, and we're proud of that. We are not going to do what Mr. Scheer's talking about. We're going to do what we're talking about, which is making those at the very top contribute more to society.
And if we compare the way things are going between BC and Quebec, Quebec seems to be more difficult than BC for the NDP. First of all, why? And second, what kind of impact that will that have on your ability to form a government? Well, we have seen momentum right across the country. We had a rally of people in Montreal with a lot of people. It was there was incredible energy because people see in us a party and a team that is prepared to fight for them, that's proposing concrete solutions on the environment and to ensure that the rich pay their fair share and that we can make investments in healthcare and other things. The difference, well, you know, Canada is a big country and there are a lot of differences, and I'm very, very proud to be a citizen of British Columbia, and there are always differences between the regions of the country. But what I'm finding is that there are a number of issues we can unite around, and in particularly in BC and in Quebec, there is a desire to protect the environment which is very strong. There's also a need for more services such as health services, and I think that there are a lot more things that unite us.
CBC News. Hi. I want to follow up on the Mr. Scheer question, and a lot of the things that you have heard him say, you say are not true. What do you think of these scare tactics, and are you concerned at this point that people are going to believe those scare tactics?
I don't think so. I think people are seeing that Mr. Scheer has said things again and again that aren't true, are patently just made up. We've never anywhere in any of our announcements ever suggested any vague way that we would be increasing GST. That's wrong. That's not true. We have said very clearly what we will do. We are going to put in a super wealth tax that's going to make sure that there's a 1% on those families that have more than $20 million in fortunes. That's what we've been talking about. And I think people can tell from the repeated desperate attempts to misinform Canadians that Mr. Scheer is getting desperate and that he's trying to make up things to scare people, because our message of hope is working. People are wanting to vote out of hope. They want to vote for something, not against something. And I think he's afraid that people are going to vote with their hearts, and that's going to mean a new democratic government. That's going to mean a brighter future. That's going to mean fighters for people.
I want to ask you something about what Lisa Raitt, Conservative MP, said on The Current this morning. She actually said that the party that wins... No, that's not it. No. She said that that the NDP government, if they won a minority, that they could work with the NDP on a bill-by-bill basis.
Lisa Raitt, I've got to give her some credit. She's a very kind person. I've worked with her before. I think she's someone that's gained a lot of respect in Parliament. But I made it really clear, New Democrats are not going to work with Conservatives. What they do, our concern is, and why I want to make it really clear that I've made it very clear I'm not willing to work with Conservatives, is that they put out their platform. And their platform is exactly what we expected. Massive cuts to things like public transit, massive cuts to healthcare and to services. They're going to hurt families, and I can't support that. And while Ms. May has said very clearly that the Green Party is open to working with the Conservatives, I'm not. And that's when I've drawn the line there. Yeah, so really I want Canadians to know that, the values that we speak to are that we're not going to support a Conservative minority government. We're not going to support in any way Mr. Scheer being put into the Prime Minister's seat. That's something that we've ruled out entirely, unequivocally. Ms. May hasn't done that, and that's one of the big differences, because we don't think you can negotiate with a woman's right to choose, with same-sex marriage, with services. Merci.
So what we've said before, and I'm proud to repeat it, is that we cannot work with a Conservative government because they've already promised to cut services, they will cut investments in public infrastructure and public transit. So unlike Ms. May, who has left the door open to working with Mr. Scheer. And I have said, unlike her, that I'm against that. I will never support a Conservative government to form a government, to be the government of Canada. And I am telling people to vote New Democrat if they want to have people who are champions, who will fight for you. Vote for the New Democrats.
Janice Dixon, Globe and Mail. I just want to follow up on Hannah's question. Is there anything at all, you know, if the Conservatives were to say, we'll work with you on your cell phone bill commitment, I know you don't want to negotiate the future, you've said that before, but is there any circumstances where you could find agreement?
Well, I think this is a really crucial time period right now. We're just a couple of days from the election. And I want Canadians to know exactly where I stand. And I've said it really clearly. I know that Mr. Trudeau's let people down. And so, you know, I've made it clear, I believe New Democrats are going to deliver what people need. And with Conservatives, they cut services, they cut the things that people need. And so I will not in any way support a Conservative government. And I made those things very clear.
Thank you. I'm curious, I know, you know, Mr. Scheer made these comments about the GST tax this morning. On the flip side, the Conservatives have also been praising your campaign. Lisa Raitt this morning or last night complimented you on your TikTok video. What do you make of their sort of, you know, the other side, the encouragement of your momentum?
Well, and the video was a good video, so I think she's just acknowledging. It was good. It was pretty cool. And I want to make sure it's clear why it was cool, though. It wasn't just cool because it was whatever. It was actually the message. And what we talk about in that video is just a really simple way of saying who we're going to fight for. We're going to fight for the environment and the planet and young people's future. And we're not going to... And we're not gonna subsidize oil and gas. We're not gonna help out the biggest polluters. We're gonna make sure people get a home. We're not gonna cozy up to the speculations and the speculators that are driving up the cost of housing. So I think it was just a powerful way to make the contrast really clear who we're in it for, who we're fighting for. It's people, and who Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Scheer are fighting for. It's powerful corporations. That's the difference, and that's why people need us. Yeah, JP. Yes. Yes.
Oh, hi, Mr. Singh. Kevin Gallagher, CTV National News.
Hey, Kevin.
So Andrew Scheer has said in his platform that the Conservatives would not cut health care transfers. So when you say they cut health care, I'd like to know what you're talking about.
Well, they talk a lot about finding efficiencies, and we've heard Mr. Ford in Ontario say the exact same thing. I'm not going to cut health care. I'm just going to find efficiencies. And what Mr. Ford did is cut health care. He also cut education. He cut funding to kids with autism. So when Conservatives say they're going to find efficiencies and find savings, we know what that means. That means they're going to cut the services that people need. And Mr. Scheer is very close to Mr. Ford and very similar in Conservative values. And those values are very much not our values. Though their values are to cut services, and that's what they do. They don't say it clearly. They say it in a bit of code. When they say finding efficiencies, it means cutting services.
And just to follow up, it does seem today that you're drawing a fairly clear line in the sand about how an NDP MPs would handle a Conservative minority. Yesterday, Lisa Laflamme asked you on CTV National News if you would topple a Conservative minority government on their first bill, which would be to cut the carbon tax. Canadians want to know if they're going to have to go back to the polls months after we decide what the next government could be on October 21st. And I think that they deserve a clearer answer from you today, sir.
Well, I want Canadians to know exactly what they're going to get. And so I want them to know the New Democrats, we fight Conservatives and we win in ridings where people are worried about Conservatives winning, like here in this riding here with Gord Johns. Gord Johns is going to beat Conservatives. So if you vote for Gord, you beat Conservatives. We love Gord. So people should know that New Democrats aren't going to work with putting in a Conservative government. We're not going to do that. What they should know is, though, the Liberals have let you down. And the more New Democrats you vote for in this election, if you vote for enough of us, we're going to form government. But if you vote for enough of us, either way, we're going to fight for the priorities we put forward. And whatever we can do to make sure people have more affordable lives, housing, healthcare, tackling the climate crisis, and true reconciliation, we are going to do these things, making sure that the richest pay their fair share. That's who you get with the New Democrat. Well, they should just know, folks, across Canada, that New Democrats are going to fight for them and that they don't have to choose between Liberals and Conservatives. If you get New Democrats, we're going to deliver real action and fight hard for you and all the things that you need in your lives. Liberals have let you down. Conservatives are going to cut services. You don't have to choose between the two. You got us. We're going to fight for you.
Bonjour. Bonjour, Monsieur Singh, François Cormier de TVA.
TVA,
Qui devrait être le premier à avoir la
who
chance
should be
de
the
former
first
le gouvernement?
person
Est-ce que
with
c'est
an
la
opportunity
personne qui a
to
obtenu
form
le
a
plus grand
government?
nombre
Is
de
it the
sièges?
person that
Si
won
le
the
premier
most seats?
ministre sortant,
Is
s'il est
it the
capable de bâtir
outgoing
une
prime
coalition,
minister?
qui
If he
doit
can
être
build
le
a
premier
coalition, who should be the one with the first chance to form a government? Well, as I said, I don't want to get into too many details about what could happen after October 21st. There are certain traditions, there are certain things that are normally done. But what I want to point out is that if you want someone to fight for you, if you want someone who's going to tackle the climate crisis and win, if you want someone to ensure that the rich pay their fair share, the NDP will deliver the goods on that. So you have said you will not support a conservative government. You're denouncing the Liberals, but you're not saying the same thing about the Liberals. So you would be prepared to work with a Liberal minority? I've only said one thing, which is that I'm not prepared to work with Conservatives, but I am open to working with others. I am prepared to advance our priorities by working with them, but I've only said there's one party with which I will not work, and that's the Conservative.
Alex Ballingal, Toronto Star. Would you make the cancellation of the Trans Mountain Pipeline a condition of your support for a Liberal minority that you're open to supporting?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been really clear on. I am fully opposed to the Trans Mountain. I've been opposed to it. I will continue to be opposed to it. Our commitment on one of our priorities was the environment, and that's a crucial part of our commitment to reducing our emissions, to stopping the Trans Mountain Pipeline, to ending fossil fuel subsidies. So this is something we're going to continue to fight for. Absolutely.
Last question.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Stop the pipeline! Stop the pipeline!
You are saying that you wouldn't, if the pipeline, if they want to push it through, you would pull your support out of a Liberal minority.
Yeah, we've been fighting the pipeline before. We're going to continue to fight it. We're always going to fight it.
Yes, we are against the Trans Mountain Pipeline. We have always been against it, and we will continue to fight against it. We're against it. Our values are clear. We're against that, and we will continue to be against it. And it doesn't fit with our priorities. And we believe it hasn't been aligned with our priorities, so we will always fight it.
Hello, Mr. Singh. Teresa Wright from the Canadian Press. A lot of the issues revolving around this election has been affordability. That's what we've heard from voters. Your platform calls for a $15 minimum wage. Do you think that's a living wage, or should it be higher?
Well, what we've committed to is that we would immediately raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, but we also know that that's not enough to make it living. And so our commitment is this: over the mandate of a new Democratic government, we would take the $15 minimum wage that we implement immediately and then consult with groups to develop a living wage, because people should be able to live with dignity while they're working any job in this country. And that's what we're pro. Sorry? No, that's my point. So not at all. That's why $15 is a starting point. There's been a 15 in Fairness movement that's been calling for that. We would do that immediately. But then what we would do right away, a part of our commitment, in our commitment document that we released months ago, is that we would take the $15 minimum wage and raise it to a living wage during the mandate of a new Democratic government, because we know it needs to be living. Thank you very much. Thank you.